So I had suggested we talk about mobile photography. And the reason I suggested that was my YouTube recommendations and all the people that I seem to follow on YouTube photographer accounts, that is, all seem to have some post, some video talking about the iPhone 12 Pro. Not the 12 Pro Max, which obviously, I guess people are just getting in their hands on. And Christian, I think you said you have one or have one coming, right?
Tomorrow. I get it tomorrow.
Jan, you have an iPhone 12 Pro, right?
I never upgraded.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I try to not do it, man. I fall into the trap every year. I mean, to be fair, I waited at least a few. Well, how long has it been out now? 2 weeks?
I think it just came out because the Max came out delayed.
Yeah, the Max was delayed, so it's only been out. Yeah.
If it's even been out, it might come out tomorrow.
It's about a week because a friend of mine he waited in line like the day after they released or something like that, and I think it was like last weekend. So it's probably been just about a week.
I'm 100% never waiting in a line for iPhone ever again.
Yeah,
for sure, never doing that again.
I'm on the iPhone upgrade plan, so I don't really, it's like a lease to me. It's like, all right, go online, order, okay, shows up when it does, and even if I don't get it the day of, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's really just not.
I honestly thought I was getting mine next week, and I was like, fine, but I was like, oh, whatever. I'll just wait till next week, and then I got FedEx emailed me your delivery from AT&T tomorrow. I was like, dope.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely excited about it for sure. The camera's supposed to be pretty crazy.
Yeah. But the reason I brought up is, we can talk, I guess we should talk about the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max at some point. But the reason I brought up was just in general, from a photography perspective, because, through my struggles of trying to pare down my gear, one of the things I thought about, and I think I mentioned this in a couple of episodes ago when I went on a camping trip with my family, and I took two cameras. I took the X100V and the X3, but I ended up just using my phone the whole time, and I felt good about it. But the thing that I noticed is that as much as I want to use my phone for photography, it never feels deliberate, and it is more casual. It's more like, hey, cool, let me take this picture of my family and probably just, share it with my wife or my mom or something like that. Yeah. I never set out to do mobile photography. And I have a couple theories on, beyond the fact that it's not a camera, I have a couple theories on why that is, at least for me. So before I get into that, what are your guys' thoughts on mobile photography? And I know we talked about this a while ago. That you promised your wife that you just need your iPhone and nothing else, 10 years ago.
We discussed that on one of the first episodes.
Yeah.
And she actually, when I brought up that episode, she's like, did you even tell them that you bought 1,000 apps? Because I know you're embarrassed. I'm like, of course I told them that. And I still have my 1,000 apps on here, and I still use them every now and then. Yeah. And I have tried doing the mobile photography thing for a while. I was like, this is the only camera I need. BS. That never worked out. But I have done it. I have tried it. And sometimes I do go out, sometimes we go out to Little Havana to shoot. I'll take a film camera and just my phone. And if I want to do something digital, I'll use the phone. And I actually post those photos on my feed every now and then. And I might forget and hashtag them like a Q. And I'm sure people think it's a Q photo. You can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's this, for Instagram, it's the same thing. Use whatever camera you have, it'll all look the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did Greg Williams. He's a photographer who does commercial portrait work, mostly for Hollywood actors and stuff. Big fan of his, and he's kind of been major inspo for me lately. And he did this workshop, and one of the segments in the workshop is actually about mobile photography, and specifically he uses the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And dude, the images that he got out of it are ridiculous. It looks like they were shot with a real camera. In quotations for those just listening and not on YouTube. In air quotes, I mean. I'm definitely more open to it now. I think that phones have gotten way better, but I can definitely say that a few iPhones ago, I was not about it at all. I was like, this is just not good enough in image quality to I don't want to say compared to a real, again, air quotes, real camera, but I mean, like, I just enjoy using a real camera more. I don't love the feeling of pulling out my phone to take a photo that I see that's like a really great photo. I would much rather carry one of my Leicas on me and take the photo with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like the tactile nature of the actual camera is a big part of it. A lot of times I'll take a real camera and we'll go somewhere and I'll take a photo with my real camera and a photo with my phone. And the phone photo usually happens to be composed better or look better or just I like it better. But at the end of the day, I just don't like using my phone. Even like the ones we talk about, it's like my favorite camera, this little GR. It's about the size of a phone. Has it doesn't have anything cool about it. It's not a pretty camera.
Every time I see that camera, I can't believe the size of it.
But like it's one-handed operation and it has a shutter button. And the only thing it does is take photos. Like I could walk around with it and I'm taking photos right now. Like, no, not even thinking about it. I'm taking photos. Meanwhile, with the phone, I have to be like deliberately trying to push the little button. And yeah, you could use the volume button, but now your phone shakes.
Well, I actually, every time I shoot with my phone, even whether it's like this or like this, I always use the volume button
every time,
just because of the tactile like feeling of it.
Yeah.
Every time I do, the photo's never sharp.
Yeah.
Really?
I have that same problem because I end up pushing it and like twisting the camera for some reason.
Really?
It's not a nice press for me. So yeah, I actually have a lot of
maybe it depends on the cases you guys have. I just have
even without a case.
The leather, no, but I'm saying I think maybe the case that I have, like softens
I can see that
softens the press. Maybe. You know what I mean?
Oh, you have a shutter release on your phone.
Yes,
I can actually see that with the case because there's a case I had that I think mine it was a bull strap case and like the button presses were a little like more, I don't know,
rigid,
subtle. Yeah, it's just subtle. So like it was easier like to roll onto it. It was like a soft release. So because it was actually a button that sat on an actual physical like metal button that sat on top of the thing. So like it it actually did feel like a shutter release.
Yeah, that's what mine looks like. I don't know if you could.
I can actually say that. Yeah,
right. If you see, it's the leather one. I get it every time. I don't know why. I used to buy all sorts of different cases for my iPhone until I discovered the Apple leather case. And I've had it on my last, I think, 3 iPhones. And I just ordered the one for my Pro Max. It doesn't get here till next week, but whatever. I just love the feel of it. I love the look of it. It still has like grip to it, but it's like, it doesn't like get stuck in your pocket like the silicone one or whatever. I like it a lot, man. And they do great. And the more you wear them out, the better they look. So
nice.
I was all about leather cases until I got the Max. And then it got so big that I can't use it without the pop socket. Like, I need that thing on there. Like I bought it. I'm like, I can't believe I'm on Amazon right now looking at pop sockets, but I need one. It hurts my fingers.
Yeah, I've never had a pop socket before. I've used them on other people's phones.
Have you had a Max?
I have a Max.
You have a Max?
But I have, look at the size of my hands, dude.
That is true.
I have enormous, like legit enormous hands. So that's why I always get the Max. It's not because of the specs. It's because I need a big phone. I remember when the iPhone first came out and it was like the smaller one and there was no Max. I remember it feeling like a little baby toy in my hand. It was just like, I was never comfortable using it. Even texting, I would feel like super small.
Like I've loved the screen on this thing, but I've hated the user experience of having this big ass phone since the day I got it. And now that they have the mini, I'm like, I really want the mini, just to go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum where like, oh, my pinky could reach every corner. Perfect.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, especially you as a photographer and someone who's active on social media and everything, like it's pretty nice to have, I wouldn't consider this a big screen, but it's big enough where you can enjoy the display. Whereas I feel like a small one would be like, you kind of like,
my eyes
to that age. We're getting to the pinch and zoom age.
My eyes aren't what they used to be, but I did plenty on like an iPhone, original iPhone with like a screen that was that big.
Yeah.
And that thing was fine. I did everything on it. So
the irony is like that, and we talked about this in like the first episode. Like, I went on a trip with just an iPhone 3GS, and a friend who was a photographer convinced me to get a DSLR, a Canon like Rebel XS at the time. And like since then, it's like I've been against phone photography or not really into it until more recently. So like, going back to, I guess the thoughts I had on that, like, I think there are a couple of ways you can look at it, right? One is because I think part of the reason why we feel the way we do about phones, which isn't very like 100% confident about iPhone photography or mobile photography, is, we grew up when like film cameras were still around technically, right? Digital cameras were like in our lifetime. If you think about like, my kids and people that grew up like it's just like YouTube, like we know a world before YouTube. There are people that probably don't know what that world's like. So I think it's the same thing. They don't know what the world is like without mobile photography. So it's more like common, like, oh yeah, sure, you just use your phone. So I think that's a big part of like our perspective on it. But even so, I think it's also like, the workflow, right? Like we look at photography like it's a tool that's a part of like a bigger workflow to, either get to like either print or something. And yes, obviously sharing and so on, like on social media nowadays. But like, for I guess somebody younger who's used to mobile photography, the means to the end really is Instagram. Like if you think about it, right? That's where they're going to share stuff. It's social media, it's Facebook, whatever. So it may be harder for us to grasp and accept in that way, even though we know it's very capable, because the workflow is, not necessarily workflow like, hey, do you take it and file out of the phone and take it to this app and do anything like that, but just what the end goal is. Like, what are they doing it for? What's your purpose? And I've seen some really good photos come out of people like, my cousin, who again is younger than me, kind of grew up with that. And like, she's taking some really good photos. It's just for Instagram. It's just with their phone. It's like, it doesn't need like a DSLR or anything like crazy to take photos, but that's what she's used to. So like, it doesn't get in her way. She's never saying like, oh, I need a better camera, which is one benefit too, I guess, is that you never really have to worry about, you just kind of like, you're beholden to like whatever Apple or Samsung or whoever releases.
Yeah, so. I guess, I mean, for me, it's also like, I can't tell a client that I'm going to shoot their wedding on an iPhone.
Yeah, your use cases, I think, is a little like, to be fair.
I could, if that was like my gimmick or whatever. I mean, the guy who shot the kid who shot Kanye and Kim's wedding shot it on
Somebody
an
shot
iPhone.
Kanye? Oh, got me all excited.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
Yeah, man. It was supposed to be Annie Leibovitz, and then she pulled out like the day before or something. So they found some kid, like he was like some 20-year-old kid, and he shot their wedding on a freaking iPhone. Which goes to your point, Mark. Like he literally was just confident enough, like, I'm shooting Kanye's wedding on an iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, it's like the old adage about photography, like it's a tool, right? I think with cameras, and here's a good example. Like Yanni and his mechanical keyboards. To me, I'm like, I just want a keyboard that works.
So let me interject. I was trying to say this before.
Go ahead.
So what you were saying about like kids now being just born like the digital camera age. Yeah, but there's still the enthusiasts. Like there's still kids that are 15, 16 years old picking up film cameras that they've never seen a film camera in use, but they're enthusiasts. Just like you could get to work in a Honda Civic or you could get to work in a 1,000 horsepower Supra. They both get you to work and they're both perfectly good at the Civic's probably better at transportation, but one's a lot more fun. Or even 1,000 horsepower Supra to a ludicrous mode Tesla. The Tesla might be faster or it's about just as fast. But the Supra still is a more visceral, real experience.
Fair
which
enough.
is the same thing for the cameras or for the mechanical keyboards or for a fountain pen or for pretty much any niche hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I guess the way I look at it is like that's all. I don't disagree with that. But the way I think of it is that possibly with the exception of the last example you gave about the Tesla, there really hasn't been anything as, let's say, transformative, right? Like, using keyboards, right? Keyboards are still essentially the same thing. Yes, it's gotten better, like, clicky clack stuff and there's wireless, but like nothing's really fundamentally changed the way you use a keyboard. An electric car is a huge freaking difference, right? Complete difference. And then I think the mobile phones is also a huge shift in how people, the access to photography. Like you don't have to buy a discrete device, which actually is kind of a good segue, because the other thing I was going to get into, like, well, beyond just like, well, our perspectives on it because of what we're used to and a tactile feeling thing, what are some of like the faults with mobile photography? And the biggest one that stands out to me is battery life, because if you have a discrete device for photography, you can take pictures, and when the batteries die, you can just sling it over your shoulder, put it in a bag, and you're done with it. We rely on our phones a lot these days, right? And pulling your phone out, and I experienced this when I went to, again, when I used this on this camping trip, I was just snapping pictures away like crazy, because for one, like I don't do well with like taking single photos on the phone. I'm just like snap, 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 because I just feel like I can't tell what's going on. But it drains the battery having that screen
hit
on.
a sour note for me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of like the reason that I feel the way that I feel. Like, you can't really tell what's going on. There's no viewfinder. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, and I mean, you can be purposeful, but it's harder for me personally to kind of like, if you will, get in the zone of using a phone, because like I raise it up and it's like, all right, it's this, and like take a picture, and like it just doesn't feel right. And that's a personal thing. I think that goes back to what we're talking about, the tactile feel, what we're used to. But even then, you have the screen on full blast. If you're using it for like, let's say, I'll call it a photo session, not necessarily like to take a picture of a client, but just, you're out taking photos for purpose.
right.
We use our phones for navigation, communication, everything like that. So with all that stuff going on, background, notifications, this is that. It's like, I feel like it drains the battery, or can drain the battery, and a number of other things that are associated to like having multiple things going on in one device that's battery powered. So
Yeah, but hook it up to a power delivery low battery pack that's like yay big, and it'll recharge your battery to like 75% in 30 minutes while it's in your bag or wherever. Like, once you get back in your car, plug it in. Navigation works perfectly fine plugged into CarPlay. Like,
yeah. Well, I would, to be fair, I was actually thinking about it in a context of travel, because not on this trip, but in the past. Go ahead.
Do you travel without a bag, and like without I would not go on a trip without a battery pack for my phone.
So that's what I was saying. I was like, in the past.
Sure.
So in the past, when I have taken trips and decided, okay, I'm just going to take my phone, or maybe even go out for like a part of the day where I'm like, all right, and it's going to be kind of inconvenient to like take a bag or take a camera bag, if you will, or a camera and a bag. I've noticed that, yes, that does happen, where like, okay, I could drain the battery out, take a picture, stuff like that, and videos. And again, I feel part of it is due to the purpose, right? Like, if I'm taking a camera, there's a different mentality I'm taking along with using that camera than if I have my phone, where I'm taking videos of, let's say, friends messing around or doing whatever, being silly stuff. Is like, I'm using the phone for more things than just like, if you will, serious photography in air quotes, right?
So,
like,
let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You'd rather use a real camera than a phone, given. So do I. So does Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Your cameras, most of them, some of them, maybe, take video. What do you take video on when you're out?
What do I take video on? Nowadays, I don't do much video at all.
But like, if you have to like record, if
I
you're with your kids
to,
and you want to take a photo of your kids, you use the camera. But you want to take video, you have a camera with a bigger sensor and a better lens that does video. What do you use for video?
Oh yeah, the phone for sure.
Yeah, every single time.
Yeah.
Which is
no, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a different. You're
you're
veering outside of the point.
So
conversation here.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's a good point, distinction to bring up, because it's the one reason why me personally, I actually haven't found the need for the what's the Osmo Pocket, because the way I take video is very casual. So, and I know it's it's stabilized and so on, and it's a lot better. But like,
I think it's
to me, I'm
awesome.
like,
I love that thing.
I was like, I'd rather just use my phone for that, even though it's not as good. Like, that's my compromise. I'm like, I'd rather have that as my, like,
I don't know, dude.
Let's call it video snapshot device.
So another reason I should say that I hate using my phone for video, for example, is the lack of organization, I guess. And that's probably my own fault. But like, let's say I went on a trip to Japan, right? I'm not a video person at all, but I would definitely want to take some, like, the style of shooting obviously varies from person to person, but me personally, I would either take my Q2 and sit and make a frame, like compose a photo frame and just hit record as a video and let things happen in the frame instead of like moving it around like a cinema camera, right? But on my phone, if I do the same thing, and let's say over the whole trip, and this is what I do when I travel, I'm shooting on my cameras, then I'm uploading to my phone, then I edit on my phone or on my iPad. Obviously, they sync up in Lightroom, and then I post on either or I share it with Genesis. If I take photos of her and she wants to post on her, Genesis is my wife, by the way. If she wants to post on her Instagram. So by the time I have spent 3 weeks in Japan, I have an insane amount of media on my phone, right? Or on my device. And like, I would have to go back and like, I just feel like it would take so much time to organize all of the footage of video that I took on my phone to be able to edit together like a trip video, if you will, or however you want to call it, like a vlog or something. Whereas I feel like if you have a dedicated, like like my Q2, for example, if I did it on my Q2, every night when I get back to my hotel, I dump my SD card. I have a hard drive on me, so I'll just organize all the files then. Like all the video files go in one folder, all the image files go in another. And when I'm ready to edit everything, everything is nice and organized. Whereas like on the phone, I don't feel like you can do that as easily or as comfortably.
That goes back to that workflow thing I was talking about. It could be just because of what we're used to and what we've kind of like, before iPhones were, what's the word? Practical, right? Or mobile phones were practical photography. Right. Like we're used to this workflow. So that's the problem I have right now. Like I look at my phone sometimes and like I've taken some great photos on my phone, but if I guarantee if I go to my phone right now and were to show you what's on there, it's like a bunch of stuff that came from any one of my actual, real cameras, right? A bunch of stuff that's been edited for like Instagram. So like I put like white borders on it so it keeps a square thing. So I have like duplications of that. There's clips that I have of like just stuff that I've been around the house. And yeah, I'll take videos of my kids playing and stuff like that. There's things that I may think, oh, this is a great either photo or even a video clip, right? Just to do it exactly what you said. Cause I do that a lot where it's like, I make it like a static photo frame, video frame where like it's the same view, don't move the phone or whatever and just record it. I cannot tell you where any of that stuff is. I just can't. And I think that goes back to what I said about what we grew up with or are used to, because I think that's purely mental because the tools are there. I mean, it's even better than what we can do in like Lightroom or anything else. Like if you want to go search for a person, like I can literally type in a name on my phone and we'll find a picture of Yanni or you or whoever. Right. So it's not that the tools and the capabilities are there. I think we're just not programmed to think that way and therefore like cater to that. It's a different thing for
us. Sure, some people are.
Yeah.
Sure,
are. Like my situation for like video, I'll go like when I travel, I take a GoPro, the Osmo Pocket. My camera obviously does video, and I will sporadically use all of them throughout the trip. And I also use my phone. All of those fancy camera videos are all somewhere in my Synology or something stored, organized, cataloged by trip and everything. I will never look at that, but I will look at the videos on my phone all the time. I've never gone back to any of my trips and looked at the videos. I'm like, they're all there because I'm gonna edit a trip video about this, and I never edit the video.
But what if like you went
I'm the opposite, man.
What if you went on the trip?
Absolutely opposite. Go ahead.
And you organize all this stuff, and you actually edit a full video. You make a video, like a film, let's say a trip film out of it, and you put it on YouTube. Don't you think you would watch that on YouTube?
Yeah, but if my grandma had 3 wheels, she'd be a tricycle. Like I never put the video together. Like that's the thing. Like that's what I intend to do. But it never gets done.
You're so cute, man.
Well, see, and I think so. I mean, let's be honest, right? It all comes down to personal preference and what you're used to. And I think we all have some variation of like what's, I guess, normal or how we deal with mobile workflows. Because for me, the problem is I never go back and look at my phone, like unless it says. And I'll take some other examples. If I'm going to another country for a very defined period of time, like 7 days, 10 days in another country, it's very easy for me when I come back to say, okay, starting from this point on, here are all my pictures that I took, phone, camera, video cam, whatever the different mediums are, right? So it's easy for me to bring that in. And I will do this sometimes where like I bring in like a very discrete trip into Lightroom, right? Or something like that, which includes, every picture, phone, whatever, and even sometimes the video just to kind of keep it cataloged that way. So at least the context is there. And yes, whether I decide to make a video, make some kind of project, some final output out of it, a photo, but who cares, whatever it is, it's all together. It's easier to do when it's a trip. If it's especially for me, like the photography I have is pretty sporadic where it's like, all right, I might be in a mood right now. I'm going to take pictures of the kids or something around the yard I mean, COVID's changes a bit first. So, but there's not much, it's not really an event that I'm going to tie around it. Like if I took my camera, let's say for me and Yanni go out to Union, go grab beers. I'm not going to say Union Beer Store, December, November 19th, 2020, right? I'm not going to do that for that type of event.
Really?
Right?
I would.
Yeah, no, I don't, because it's just a random outing to me. So I may have random things on my phone or anything like that. And the problem is if I don't put some content, rails on, and maybe I should, maybe that's a good recommendation to start doing that, right? So everything you put some kind of rails around it. If I don't do that, then it just becomes something lost on my phone. Funny enough, if it's not on my phone, I'm, like I said, mentally programmed to know that I have this type of photo in Lightroom somewhere. Today, I give you a funny example. Today, in another WhatsApp chat that I have, like somebody posted like a funny like good morning thing. And it was like a picture of like a monkey like looking like he's getting like a blowjob or something like that, whatever. And I like instantaneously I saw that. I'm like, oh, I went to Bali for my honeymoon. We went to Ubud Monkey Forest, Sacred Monkey Forest. I remember a picture that I took of a monkey looking like he's basically jerking off another monkey. I knew exactly where to look because I cataloged it. I knew exactly where to look because I know where that trip is, and I was able to find the picture. Like even one of my friends was like
jerking off monkeys.
Yeah, it's like he's like
very Nat Geo of you.
He's like, he's like, why do you know where this is? Why do you have this on deck? And I'm like, it's just my workflow. Yeah. Now I have no idea if I needed to find not the same picture, but let's say any picture that I should know the point in time. It's not as easy for me to find in my phone for some reason. I don't know if it's the layout. I don't know if it's, again, I think it's more of a mental block, but those are the challenges I run into when I think about mobile phone photography beyond the, some of the technical limitations, right? Because I think circling back to like the newer phones, I think if you know the limitations of your tool, just like anything else, if you're using a film, if you're using a crop sensor, you're using full frame versus older camera like an M9 versus an M10 monochrome, you learn to work within those confines, right? But I think for me, the biggest problem is like I'm like too old for like mobile phone photography. I can't get in with the workflow. It's just it's just not despite the benefits, it's just not something that like feels right for me.
For me, it's just like it's the actual use of the camera because my entire workflow is pretty much mobile. Like all my photos are on my phone. My videos, I edit my video. When I do edit a video, I edit it on the iPad or my phone. I don't edit on the computer ever. Like I have no idea how to use Premiere.
Post, right?
The what?
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, everything post. Like everything Mark's talking about, like knowing exactly where to find the photo in Lightroom. Mm-hmm. So do I, but it's on my phone. If I have to go find that photo on my computer, I'll never find it. Like I would just never get around to it.
Yeah,
so,
I use Google Photos for that. Every time I finish something like that I shoot in personal work, I create an album in Google Photos, so I have it on any device, literally anywhere. I could go on a complete stranger's computer, log into my Google Photos, and it'll be there.
It's hilarious, like how we have 3 totally separate, distinct uses. Like you say, like I finished something, so I made an album. I've never considered anything finished, so I don't have albums. I have collections on Lightroom, and it'll be like a street photography collection just keeps on growing to like 20,000 photos. A travel collection that's grown to like 20,000 other photos, and it's just massive collections that never end.
Yeah, but the way that I organize my stuff, especially like specifically so that I can use it on my mobile devices, and I say mobile devices, my iPad, my laptop, if I'm traveling, whatever, is because of my background as an audio engineer. When I went to school for audio engineering, we were taught a very specific way of organizing and handling files so that nothing would ever get lost, or we just know where to always look exactly where to find it. And that kind of just was ingrained in me. So when I became a photographer, I took that same kind of workflow, if you will, and turned it into photography, which is why I make Lightroom catalog out of everything that every individual session I shoot.
Well, if I was shooting actual sessions, because they have they have a limited time. There's like a beginning and an end to it. But for like my stuff, is just my life. I guess my Lightroom catalog ends when I die. Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody put everything in an album. Throw it to Google
deep.
Photos.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That is actually a funny observation. Like I think we all have like some weird permutation of like the other's workflow. So like mine is like Yanni's. Like my entire Lightroom catalog is literally everything that I have.
You can see that's
70,000. Holy crap!
That's my Lightroom catalog on my phone.
Yeah, he has 3 times more photos than I do.
Yeah,
in Lightroom. I'm missing some stuff.
I have like a decimal point of that on my Lightroom mobile, which I meant to mention. I have only. This sounds messed up. I've only respected Lightroom mobile for like the last 2 years. Before that, I didn't even consider it. I felt the same way that I feel about shooting on an iPhone as I did about editing on an iPhone. And I was like, if I'm taking a photo on my camera, why would I edit it in Lightroom mobile? Mind you, back then I was shooting Canon, and the Canon app wasn't what the Leica app is. So you know what I mean? So
again, you're shooting for a different audience. You're shooting to deliver photos to a client. I'm shooting for Instagram. Why wouldn't I edit the photo that's going to be seen on a phone on my phone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, even then, I mean, because I've had Instagram for much longer than that, than 2 years, and even then, I was very adamant about seeing it on a big screen so that I can see what I'm doing and making sure that the image was as perfect as I wanted to make it, and then putting it on Google Photos and then downloading it onto my mobile to post onto Instagram instead of skipping all that and just editing on mobile. I'm a much better photographer, or at least I'd like to think I am, than I was 2 years ago. So now I shoot, and then I know that it's, you know what I mean, it's good to go. I just throw a preset on it on my Lightroom mobile and put it on Instagram.
So back to the cap. And then on my Apple Photos, there's like 50,000 photos on there. So it's 120,000 total photos.
You just reminded me about one of the biggest problems I have with mobile phone photography. And it's the riffraff in between. I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier. Like, you know, so I'm gonna just recall like the first couple photos I see. There's a picture of my son on the potty, which I sent you guys before because he told me he needed to go potty like as we were about to start recording. I have again something that I was prepping for posting on Instagram, or a picture of my son, again to go on that account. I have a random picture I sent of my house to show my coworker how far I was able to walk away with this headset that he gave me. Mm-hmm. So it's like I have all this riffraff in here, and it's not, I know if I go to Lightroom and I just look consistently, it's like these are all, let's use the term loosely, purposeful photos, right? I don't keep riffraff like this. Like I have pictures of the freaking serial number of my microwave because I had to come back to my computer and look it up. Like, so it's hard for me to sort through stuff.
But you don't have to sort through. That's the beauty of the phone. Like if, let's say you went to Little Havana and took photos of your phone, go to the map, click Little Havana. You're not there all the time.
Fair.
Click it. Yeah. There are all the photos. You took a picture of a Porsche or some nice car. Search for Porsche, and there it is. Like that's how I find everything on my phone. Like everything's seconds away.
Yeah. No.
I definitely do like
and
that.
I actually had it. So I was typing up some notes like when we first started the discussion, just to kind of like organize my thoughts because, I had a lot of thoughts on this because I've been, pondering it for a while, and that was one of the things where it's like. This is why I go back to, I think a part of it is it's not a flaw with mobile phone photography. Obviously it works well. There's tons of people who have shown what you can do with mobile phones and, are, let's call it mobile first type workflows. And I think a part of it is, like I said, it's all mental. It's like, I'm not thinking, hey, take advantage of this stuff because, I guess, and the funny part is we still have the same end, it means to an end. Like we're still aiming to go to like social media at this point, right? None of us, for the most part, aren't necessarily printing our work like for galleries or fine art prints, like not as a primary. Again, Christian, you're a little different because you actually have customers, but we're talking personal work here. Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't come up as like the first thing I think about because like what I'm used to doing is saying, hey, Lightroom, let me sort by date because I know this happened in this month of this year. Again, I use my honeymoon as a perfect example because it was a very discreet trip. And that's why it's easier for me to think about things in a travel context, right? Because that, circling back to like one of the first episodes, one of the things that really got me into photography was traveling. So it's easy to say, hey, trip to this country during this period of time or this year. I know what I'm looking for is in here. I might not even remember the specific day, but the longest trip I've taken is 3 weeks. So what's, freaking 21 days to go look through to go find one photo? It's probably nothing, right? Even if it's 1,000 photos.
Yeah.
But going to my phone and saying, I took a picture of, and just making this up, but a flower in my backyard that had really awesome light. How the fuck do I find that right now? I don't know what day that is. There's no context to it. And funny enough,
I guess you could try typing flower in the search search
and it
bar,
might work, but
still.
that's what I said. It's a mental block.
Yeah,
I
man,
think.
for sure.
I'm not going to think about that. Or it doesn't come to mind first, but I know if it was in Lightroom for some reason, because it's not as much casual stuff in Lightroom, I think, because again, if I decided I'm going to take my camera out to go do this, and maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, right? Or maybe I'm wrong because maybe I do have a bunch of stuff in Lightroom that I completely forgot about. Like, I forgot I took this picture of this flower here. Or again, I'm using flowers as an example. I'm pretty sure I don't have lots of pictures of flowers because it's just an odd thing for me. But I think it's a personal preference / what we're used to, and what we grew up with, if you will, right? We're talking earlier about consoles. It's like, a person that grew up, let's say 10 years younger than us won't know what an NES was like, or an Atari or anything like that, right? So their concept of what a video game should look like and how to operate with that, like, I think the Dreamcast, we mentioned Dreamcast earlier, was one of the first consoles I knew that could connect to the internet. So imagine if you were like, whatever age it is, that's the first console you've experienced. You're probably going to think, oh, why doesn't this NES connect? Like, how do you play with your friends? Like, that's going to be your question. For sure. right. So, I think I think that's a part of it, but to be fair, I'm trying to give it a chance because, like, I'll be very honest with you. This iPhone and the previous one are the first two that I'm like, holy shit. There are things that I've posted here or taken pictures of, not just posted it, that I am thoroughly impressed with. Given, I don't want to say circumstance, but let's say, like, I know the light was perfect. So, like, I know that's not going to be the issue. I've been impressed with the cameras. So, like, I absolutely think that they're capable, maybe not as the primary thing as a hobbyist, where, like, just to your point earlier, you talk about cars, right? Like, yeah, you could just drive any car you want, whatever. It doesn't matter. A car's a car, but a hobbyist will appreciate an S2000 or a Miata or an NSX or a Ferrari, whatever it is, where somebody else might just look like, hey, yeah, everybody has to have a car, but I have a Civic or an Accord or, whatever. So I think a big part of, like, that is just it's perspective, So I don't know. Again, I have a lot of thoughts on this stuff. So yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a hobby. Like, I like using cameras. Like, I enjoy using cameras more than I enjoy photography, I guess.
Like, I thought about that just the other day.
I've never called myself.
That's a topic for another day.
I'm not an artist. I just like using cameras, and if you have a camera, you have to do photography. So I take photos of things, but I just enjoy cameras.
That leads to, and I know we're
gonna leave that one for the next episode.
Yeah, for the next episode. That's why I said that's a good topic for another day.
I'll make this last point. Is the controls. We talked about tactile feel. Like, yes, there's what's this app for iPhone? Damn it, Halide camera. Like, you have control over exposure compensation and stuff like that. But
you gotta send me.
But it's still not the same. Like, you can't say I'm gonna dial this in and whatever. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. So I'm gonna keep using my regular camera. So
same.
All right, guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Give us a like and
subscribe.
That really helps.
See you guys next
later,
week.
folks.
Later.